Call meeting to order. For those who care to, please rise for an opening prayer and a salute to our flag. You would bow your heads with me? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the time we get to spend together. Thank you for blessing this city and the people that make it up and allow us to do the things that you would like us to do, lead, guide, direct, not only the city council members, but the community in a whole. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a couple of items on Mayor's announcements. The Republic Historical Sign dedication was tonight, right before council meeting at 6 o'clock. It was an excellent little meeting, I guess you would say. The sign looks great out there. It is on, so those of you who haven't seen the sign, it is lit up right down here at the corner of 60 and Main. So it was a nice dedication that they had, and there was quite a bit of money raised, and they're already talking about another one, I guess, from what I hear. So we'll see how that one goes. I don't know if they can find the other ones. There were two in town at one particular
I guess they could copy that one.
They could copy that one at a nominal charge, I'm sure. So, and last announcement too, many of you may know that Mr. Hunsinger passed away. He sat on this board for 11 years. He was my mayor pro tem for 4 years, and he passed away a little over a week ago, and his funeral was this past week, and we're going to miss Mr. Hunsinger. He sat on committees, councils. He was here for lots of different issues. For the first sewer issue, he was here for the fish. He was here for the he was here for all sorts of things. So Mr. Hunsinger is going to be sorely missed. He did a great job. And he was not afraid to tell you what he thought, as Mr. Wilson well knows. But Mr. Hunsinger was not afraid to tell you what he thinks. He was not afraid to step up and stand up. And I certainly will miss him. He was a good friend of mine, and I hate to see him go. But anyway, his funeral was this past week, and just kind of want to remember him. And remember Doris and the family as she adjusts to life without Jim, and that's got to be something else, because Jim provided a lot of life for a lot of different people, including Doris. So, anyway, those are my announcements for today. Let's see. Mr. Krischke has an administrator update. It's quite thick this time. Please take time, council, to look through that. There's quite a bit of information in there, and Brenda's also got some information in there as well to go along with that. So please take time to read the administrator update. Typically Jim gives those. They're fairly efficient and easy to read, but this one has quite a bit of information on. So please take time to peruse that. If you have questions on that, please contact Jim and let him know what you have. The public hearing, I'd like to open it up now to anybody on citizen participation. Anybody wishing to like to speak to council on anything not on the agenda, please step forward, state your name, sign in, and give us your best 3 minutes.
Yes, we're on the agenda.
I think so.
Dale Boucher.
Okay, Dale. If you would sign in too, please.
Okay.
Thank you. And your address when you get a chance.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I'm Dale Boucher. I live on 114 South Dogwood. Matters concerning the Dogwood water project we've been doing here. And we have some concerns, of course, with the aesthetics of the whole project. Okay. And it seems like, what we got wasn't what we anticipated getting. And like it's like an overkill is kind of what we thought. I've taken some pictures. I don't know if everyone's seen kind of the impact we've had here. KSPR did a piece. Jim was on there, I think. And we're just, concerned about, the safety issues, actually.
Okay.
The banks are steep, it's very abrasive. There's no shoulder, for anyone on the street, strollers, mothers with a stroller, cars. There's just, kids are playing in these pipes, and, we're just concerned about the safety, most of all. I am anyway, because, and also the value of our homes and trying to sell, if you pass there and look at this, well, I'm sure some of you have seen it, but, we think, our homes have been devalued by this whole process, and that it was an overkill, and it was unnecessary, and I don't know if there's, I know you're working on it, we think that, at least I do, it shouldn't have been, should have been covered, in my opinion. Box culvert's covered. I don't think, I was hoping that the city would, look at the best interests of the citizens and the area, and I think the aesthetics of our street is gone now. And, I can't see how we can, by dressing it up or softening it, like I think it said somewhere, I don't see how that can actually help things. Well, we're just concerned about the valuation and the safety issues, so I don't know what we can do about this, other than, in my opinion, just having it covered would be the issue. And, David Brock talked to me about the impact on my property itself, and he said I would have the least impacted piece of property. And I ended up with two huge pipes coming across the street that are directly into my front yard, which this isn't what David Brock told me, at the beginning of this project. So, I'm just, it seems like we were told one thing and we ended up getting something else. So, we're kind of disappointed about it.
Okay.
That's about all I have to say about it. I'd like to see, I would, bottom line, I'd like to see it covered up. And, but I think they're way too deep. Even the contractor I spoke with when they were doing this told me that. I said, so what's up with this? He goes, I don't know. He said, I said, is this a little overkill? He goes, yeah. He said, I don't know why they're doing this deep. But I've lived there since '95, and, the water that I've seen go down there, I've never had water come out of my ditch, ever. And I've seen 5 or 6 good storms, and that's about what we've had. But, and down the street it did flood, I agree, and they needed some kind of, work done to it, and I'm sure this will alleviate it, as it did with the rain the other day. But, as far as my property, it was an overkill, in my opinion, and, I'm not sure what we can do about it at this point. So, I can just let you look at that, and that's kind of how I think everyone feels about this project, that it was, a little unnecessary. And apparently, I think Bob was saying, today that the original plans, what he thought was, it was supposed to be much shallower, the plans he saw. I was out of town with the first meeting, but he said, what happened, and what the original plans were down at the community building, were quite a bit different, is what he was telling me. So, anyway, I'll let you look at that and turn this over to someone else if they'd like to speak. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Mays. I live at 143 South Dogwood. I came home from Branson Saturday night. We had just a mild rain. The little upslopes on the ditches was not enough. It was out of those, up on the bank, washing the dirt away. Now, this was a mild rain Saturday night. Now, I don't know whether there's some damage or blockage somewhere. I didn't go look. It was raining too hard. I got out of my car and went in the house. But it was out of the ditch. The little lip on the side of it's only about 5 or 6 inches high, or wide. About maybe 4 inches high. There was enough water, it was washing the dirt out in front of my house. If it's doing that with this mild rain, We have no sides to the thing. What's gonna happen when we get a big rain?
Bob, I gotta ask you a question. Are you talking about,
Yeah,
above
the
the
slope.
concrete?
The concrete slope up the sides. It was above those.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
was above those
Couldn't get that visual.
on
Thank you.
Saturday night.
Okay.
And we didn't have a hard rain, and we didn't have a big rain. My house also floods. I've been flooded, I've been there since '92. I've had water under my house 7 times. This drainage ditch that you put in will take about 70% of the problem. There's another 30% of the problem that you haven't even addressed. I get all of the water from the street just west of me, both sides of it, and from the house behind them. When we have a heavy rain, it runs right straight across the street, straight off all those houses, right into my yard, and right under my house, and I can't stop it. The only way I could stop it was build a dam. If I build a dam across my yard, my neighbors are gonna get it all. So the street behind me to the west, and I can't tell you the name right now, it needs a drainage ditch put on one side or the other, preferably on my part of it, to put it on the east side of the street, to run it on down to Rosewood instead of running it through my yard. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Thomas. I live at 117 South Dogwood. And I own 136 South Dogwood also. So I'm kind of here in a double capacity. I agree with everything these gentlemen have said. My biggest concern is safety. I have 2 grandchildren, ages 2 and 3. They spent last summer riding their bikes or tricycles in the driveway. I can't allow that anymore. They cannot go in my front yard because my ditch is this tall in front of my house. I've got one of the tallest ditches. And it came about, I understand that the city owns 12 foot from the center or 14 foot from the center of the road, somewhere through there. Well, I stepped it off this afternoon just before I came, and from where my O ditch stopped, it's about 8 feet closer to my yard than it was. And again, it's a slant that is extremely steep that I cannot allow my grandchildren to play in. Not only are we having that problem, but it was seeded and straw put down. Nice job. The erosion has already started on my ditch. I went out today to check if any grass is coming up. There is no signs of any kind of grass coming up. So I'm going to have ground cover or something, and I have been searching the internet hours on end trying to find the proper ground cover, and I haven't come up with anything yet. Any suggestions I will be glad to listen to. I was concerned because of being able to mow the ditches, and I was told it won't be a problem. Well, it is a problem. There's no way I can push a lawnmower down there and pull it back up. It's on city property. I don't want to have to let it go for the city. Our streets have always been kept nice. Our streets are always clean. I have lived there since about 1988. And yes, I have seen the floods, and I'm having the same problem that Bob has. Our water, this is not going to help me at all, because I'm close enough to Elm Street. My problem is water coming in off of Elm Street through the neighbor's yard and down into the back of our house. As you have done improvements on Elm Street, it has improved. We haven't had as much water under our house in the last few years. The neighborhood is fantastic. It's safe. I don't want to have to leave it. We have considered it, and I really don't. But I do need a solution for this. I don't know what the solution is. Retaining wall, I don't know. But the erosion really has us worried because it's just taking more and more of our yard every time it rains. Thank you.
Rhonda, what's your last name?
Tomnitz.
Tomnitz, can you spell it?
Tomnitz.
Okay. And you were at 117, you said?
117 South Dogwood.
Thank you.
And 136 South Dogwood.
Okay, I just had the map here, thanks.
My name is Michelle Burns. I live at 123 South Dogwood. I have the same issues as everybody on that side of the street which I guess is west, I don't know my directions are well. We still get flooding, from that street. It goes down the back of our yard and under our house, and we've had lots of damage due to that over the years. And the ditches obviously aren't gonna help what's coming in from that street. The ditches, just like Rhonda, I have a grandson that's almost 5. I can't allow him to play out front anymore because of the ditches, they're so steep. I have a 15-year-old son that plays basketball, and the basketball goes right on the driveway, or in the yard. We play on the driveway. Every time the ball goes down, we have to go down in that ditch and get it. I myself have twisted my ankle going and chasing the ball. That's not something I want to have my son's friends come over and, you know, they shoot hoops. The kids down the street are playing in the streets all the time. Now we've got the little kids going in and out of the drain ditches, the tubes. They're crawling through the tubes, which is very dangerous. We have water sitting in the tubes, so like after it's rained, the water just sits there with the leaves and the dirt and the sticks. So mosquitoes are going to be horrible because it doesn't evaporate. It's in a cold, dark place, so it's just sitting there. Then when water stops in there, it just sits. So we have mosquitoes we're going to have to worry about. The yard, there's like, Rhonda, there's no way we're going to be able to mow it. Well, I couldn't mow it. I'm sure my strong husband could mow it. But it's going to be a problem trying to mow it. I think, this is just my opinion, but you just should have run the tubes down and covered it with dirt. And then we would have had yard. You guys took almost half of our yards when you put these big canals in. It looks like a business district or something. It doesn't look like a nice community that we had. It looks more like a business district. So, if you could have just covered it with dirt and let us have our yards back, and actually mine, you got that picture? No, the paper one. It's on that board here.
The one you're talking about, so.
Oh, my ditch, this one. Let me find it real quick. This one, not even covered. This is my driveway on one side. There's no concrete or nothing. So, since we've had this, I can't let my grandson go out because that can cut him. That's very dangerous. So, that's all I got. I'm not very happy either.
My name's John Decker. I'm from 141 South Dogwood, and I kind of agree with everyone else. My concern is, now they gave me a little bit wider driveway. I asked for a little bit wider, and they did give me a little wider driveway. But from the end of the driveway down to the ditch is about 4.5 feet. And for instance, my wife's got a Volkswagen. If she were to back that Volkswagen into that ditch, it'd flip it over. It really would. That's how deep it is and how steep it is. But my personal opinion, I think they should have covered it and just covered the whole thing up and give us our yard back. But they did. They took, they've got about, one of them told me they were allowed 17 feet from the street to the curb, and they took about 23 feet of my yard. And the slope of the yard is to the point where I can't, now on my side of the street, on my side of the yard, I can probably get a lot more down, but on the other side, it'll have to be weedy because it's just too steep for lawnmower.
Can I make one other comment?
Sure.
You can see the city put, blocks along the backside of some of them. And that's my neighbors right here, and it's just around the tree stump. Somebody that doesn't live on our street picked me up and says, what on earth kind of a mess is this? One person on my street runs the full length of their yard. Doesn't look bad on their side. And then the next one's got a little bitty corner of it, and he says, Sure looks like a bunch of kids was planning to put it together. Now, this was somebody that doesn't live there and had never been down there before, and it really does.
I'll just say one more thing too. Sorry. We have no parking anymore, because we used to, when, our street is small to begin with, so now that they've dug the gullies on both sides of the street, if we wanna have garage sales or something, there is no place for anybody to park, because they can't park along either side, because there's this big ditch on each side. So, it's not that I'm worried about garage sales, but if we have company, if we have get-togethers or whatever, there's nowhere for anybody to park, so.
May I say one more thing? Since everyone.
Sure, go ahead.
I do have one issue. Jim said, in your interview, Mr. Piskey, that they had to deal with the street, as a whole, the whole street.
Can you step up to the mic so we can record?
Yeah, please do.
Thank
Please
you.
start over if you would.
Thank you.
He was talking about, addressing the whole street, as a whole, and, that doesn't seem to be the case. What's happened, on Dogwood and, Rosewood. The ditch in front of that is covered. It is underground, it is covered, they have a lawn, for whatever, and that contradicts whatever, contradicts what you said.
What's the address, Dale?
I'm not sure what the address is, it's the last one
The corner
on the east side, on the corner of Rosewood and Dogwood, and also,
Dogwood, which side, southeast or west?
on the east side.
Okay, hold on.
And, the other one, on the west side, as soon as you turn on Dogwood, it's covered all the way down to Miss Thompson's house. And then the pipes come across at an angle into my front yard, so I just didn't understand why you were talking that we need to do it as a whole, but then there's two streets that are, or 2 yards that are covered. So I didn't understand why they would be covered and ours wouldn't, so.
Okay.
Thank
You're
you.
asking questions, thank you. Anyone else? Would you like to, anything else? There's, as Jim mentioned, we're not done with it yet. Give us some time to sort through some of the things that you guys brought up. They're all legitimate points. There's, a financial piece to this. There's long-term, before any of you lived there, those houses were built. The reason you're having flooding coming from the backside is where the flooding, where it happened, when the houses were built, was in a downward slope. So you understand that. And it's nothing that you inherited. We inherited the problem of the flooding. You inherited the problem of the flooding as well. So let us work through some of these and see what we can do. The other thing too is that I want to make, I think it was Dale, you made mention that, contractors say, well, this is overkill. I want to point out one thing though, a contractor may be digging a ditch, but an engineer that studies water is going to know exactly what's coming down there. And I would caution all of us to take a look and make sure that if we're looking at the engineering work, that we look to the people that actually know what's going on. We as council members can go out and talk to anybody on the planet, and they may tell us one thing, but when an engineer that's designed and constructed and studies and understands water and they're an expert in it, when they tell us something that's totally different. So I understand what your point was. I just want to caution not only you guys, but as council members as well, that we ensure that if we're going to look at this particular issue, that we make sure we look at the numbers and the experts that go along with it. You guys are caught, we're caught, we're having to react to something that's 40 years old. Beyond any of you that's lived there, I have a friend that lives down the street, and I've heard it from her. Trust me, I've heard it from her. She's not here tonight, I'm a little disappointed. You know what I'm talking about. Colleen, if you're listening, but you guys brought up a lot of great points, and let us, trust us. You two got the full gamut, buddy, and she's a wonderful lady, but she brings up good points too, so let us dig into those. There's some things that you brought up that we're gonna have to look at. One of those, talk about grates for the tubes. The kids are running down. The the one thing that if you try to cover those with grates, it's gonna be aesthetic value. I think you all mentioned aesthetics. But when you try to grate and cover those tubes, with grates to solve the problem now without filling it in or doing something like that, then the aesthetic value still goes even deeper down. So there's a couple of things we're gonna have to look at. Maybe there's some alternatives that we can, look at. The open tubing, I think, is, the one that I think you said that was open on your driveway. That was Michelle? Okay. That one, in particular, once the picture, I wanna go back out and see if that's still like it is, because there's, as the water flows in the City Republic, you well know, as the water flows into that area, it's gotta go somewhere, and it flows off of everything to the north of you, flows right down, flows down the sides, it flows down this way. Republic is lucky to be kind of sitting on a plateau, but with that plateau also comes valleys and things like that where the water's gotta run. It just so happens in your area, it runs this way, kind of like this. The ones on the top of the street may not have as big an issue of flooding as the ones at the bottom of the street, for that very fact, because it goes like this. If you notice some of the work that was done in our parks area, with some of those huge water deals that we put in there, just for the simple fact, your street's one of them that runs into that. There's other areas that run into that, and that's the low spot, and as it all runs out, it'll run down and run into Schuler Creek. So there's a lot of area that has to be, worked on for stormwater, not only downstream, but upstream as well. There's a couple other areas in town Mr. Brock has fixed over the years. Jewel and Maine, that sat on the books for 7 years before something was done, and that's been fixed. Another area is right down from Jewel and Maine, actually went between two houses, and that had to be fixed because their houses were built kind of the same type of deal, but they were built right side by side with the water going right in between them. That had to be fixed. So you're having to react to a problem that's 40 years old, beyond all of you. We're having to react to a problem that's been around. So we're finally getting after it, trying to fix it and solve it, not only for you, but for us as well, because downstream, if we don't get that water taken care of downstream, you could flood lots of different, not only your houses, but the park, but the houses around the park, to everything else that goes down towards Schuler Creek. So your thoughts and concerns are heard, and I appreciate you all coming tonight. Certainly, this is not a done deal. We do have some work to do. The last thing I think will be the street, but that's gonna be a while before we can get down to taking care of that. So I appreciate it. Trust me, I do take copious notes, so and we've got it on video as well as on. So, and I appreciate all of you coming. Give us some time to get back to you, and Mr. Brock, I was over there diligently writing as well, so he's taking notes as well. And so we do have a third-party engineer that is also involved in this, and we've charged him with getting some different ideas down on paper of how to not only solve the aesthetic value, but to make sure that it's a little bit different than some of the things that you've written down. So let us dig into it and get back with you if you're okay with that. So, yes, sir, Bob? Go ahead.
When I moved here in '92, before I bought my house, there was, I don't know who done the survey or whatever, but when I bought it through the realtor, I was notified that I was not in a floodplain. That the floodplain was from the center of the street to the east. Where I lived was not a floodplain. That was from our realtor, and I had it in writing.
Yes, sir, and we've had a few of those around town in the same area, and the same problem. So, but they are built in a flood, that's the problem. We had some that were built in a floodplain that clearly on their documents from the realtor, they were not. But you never know.
Mine says no, but it says that they put a line down the middle of the street and said the east side of the street's in the floodplain and you're not. And my neighbors across the street from me actually had water up on the drywall of their garage.
Yeah. And see, there's a difference between a floodplain and a floodway. I mean, there's a little intricate detail that your insurance company surely do know about, but there is a difference between a floodplain and a floodway. And there's some other things that we can go through and talk about too, but with that said, we'll go from there.
Can I ask a question about that? Are they, so everyone, when Shane and I went, we asked several people if they had flood insurance, and nobody did, so that indicates to me that they're not in a technically FEMA-designated floodplain. Is that inaccurate?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because their insurance company would insist that they have flood insurance if they're technically in a floodplain.
Yeah, Mr. Casgrain, your point's well taken, but the problem is their houses are flooding. They've been flooding for 30 years, so regardless of whether they're in a floodplain or not, or whether they have to carry flood insurance is irrelevant. They got a flooding problem. We got a water problem. We gotta fix that. So, you know, if their insurance company aren't charging them flood insurance, more power to them. They don't have to pay it. But the problem is that now we've still got an issue, with water flowing into that area. And if you look at the topographical maps of City Republic, it does do this. That's why the houses on the top that you guys went and saw didn't have so much as an issue as the ones down below. So, you know, you guys have obviously been out there and looked around. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'd welcome everybody else that hasn't been out there to go out there, 'cause it looks pretty industrial on Dogwood nowadays.
Yeah. Jim's gonna pull up some floodplain maps and see what we can find on that. It may go back before our time, you know. Some of those floodplain maps aren't updated, some of them aren't. But let's go back and take a look and see what we can find out, so. Anything else? I thank you again, and let us get back with you if that'd be okay. Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step forward, state your name, sign in, give us your best 3 minutes. Seeing none, says the participation closed. Moving on, need a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. On to financial report. Laura is not here. She is on vacation this week, so there's not a financial report. She will, however, double up and give you all the numbers. The next meeting, she's got some, numbers she'd like to explain, and they're actually good numbers, I think. Is that right, Ms. Christian? So she's happy. When the finance director's happy, we all should be fairly happy. Anyway, reports from staff. Mr. Derrickson, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. Mr. Krischke's got an update, an annual report, basically on loggers, so I'm gonna let Mr. Krischke give that.
We are, once a year, we have the option through loggers of getting a study, an actuarial study. Our current loggers retirement pension program for employees is the lowest level that we entered into a few years back, and that was what we could afford at a particular time. And that provides a pension to the employees. It bought back old past years of service, but the employees contribute 4% towards that plan. So what we've done this year is ask for a study by loggers. It's a free study that they give us, and we can give them a particular scenario if we want to change the plan. If we want to move up a level to provide a bigger pension benefit when people retire, that's an option. If we want to eliminate the 4% contribution, that would be a particular option that we could, as a city, could do as well. So we went ahead and ordered up a study that would give us an idea of what the impact would be on the city if we were to do away with the 4% employee contribution. And the reason we did that really was to get ourselves prepared for next year's budget. It isn't anything that we are obligated to do. The study is good for a 1-year period of time, but it gives us some advanced numbers to see if that would be a viable option that we could offer to the employees for, year 2014. Again, it's nothing more than just a study, but we need to make it notice. So if the public would like to see a copy of the study and they want to look at all the actuarial numbers, they're more than happy to take a look at it. Brenda would have a copy, Laura would have a copy available for the public to see. But again, nothing is intended to be done with this particular moment other than to look at it and see if there's any value in suggesting a change to City Council.
Okay, thank you, sir. On to future community events. Mr. Keel, I didn't see you sneak in back there. You've probably been there the whole time, weren't you?
I have been there.
You're sitting quietly for a change. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Future community events for the remainder of March, on into April. March the 11th through the 15th, obviously we started that today, runs through Fridays, our Schools Out program, where public schools is on spring break. That program runs from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Pre-registration is required. We do have some availability for all the remaining days. March the 12th through May the 9th is Arthritis Foundation Exercise Program. We hold that on Tuesdays at 1:30 p.m. at the Community Center, also on Thursdays at 10 a.m. No class will be held on March the 14th or April the 18th. This is a free program. It takes place at the Community Center. March the 14th through April the 4th, toddler tumbling, 5:30 or 6:30. Pre-registration is required. That is held upstairs in the Republic Activities Building. March 15th, 22nd, and 29th, those are Fridays, toddler story time at the Republic Community Center at 10:30 a.m. That is a free event. March the 16th is Saturday night, it's Parents' Night Out from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pre-registration is required. Next Monday, March the 18th, we start all of our registration for youth baseball, softball, top-ball. That season begins on May the 6th. Registration starts Monday the 18th and runs through April the 5th. March 18th and 15th is toddler open gym at 10 a.m. No registration is required. March 20th, 27th, April 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th, those are Wednesdays. Messy Munchkins at 10:30 a.m. Pre-registration is required. March the 23rd, next Saturday, is our annual Easter egg hunt held at J.R. Martin Park at 10 a.m. No registration is required. Make sure you bring in an Easter basket. And March 28th, senior movie day at 2 p.m., we have yet to determine what that movie's going to be.
It's not silent, is it?
We're going to have sound this time.
You have sound this time? Daniel, did you understand the last one that you went to that was silent?
Yes, I did.
Were you able to read everything? I mean, it's just...
Well, a lot of popcorn crunching going on.
All right, thank you, Mr. Keeling. Board commissions and committee schedule. Board of Adjustments, April 4th, capital improvements, March 20th, City Council, March 25th and April 8th, and planning and zoning, March 18th. On to old business, table items. Need a motion to have the second reading of bill number 13-11.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to execute an agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for installation and maintenance of a Brookline Park local reference sign on State Route MM.
Need a motion to have final passage bill number 13-11.
Motion. Second.
Motion and second. Mr. Brock, welcome. Give us the overview, sir.
This ordinance authorizes execution of an agreement with the Highway Commission to allow a city to install and maintain a sign on a state road. This is a directional sign directing folks to the Brookline Park, located in the vicinity, the sign is located in the vicinity of MM and Sawyer Road. At the first reading, there was some discussion on whether two signs might be able to be installed. In your red folders, you will see an amended agreement that allows for signage in both directions instead of just one. If council chooses to use that version, it would be up to the city or at the city's option whether both signs go in immediately or one sign right off the bat and the second one at a time of our choosing. Speaking with Mr. Keeling, I think this general staff feeling is if the council wants to go with the two-sign agreement, that those signs would be constructed at the same time, immediate as quick as we can get them up. The ordinance is, the language in the ordinance is flexible enough that the council can pass the existing ordinance or adopt the existing ordinance as is and just indicate your preference on the one-sign agreement or the two-sign agreement.
Questions, comments for David? I would like to say before we get started on that, I appreciate you working on that. Mr. Keeling, thank you for looking into both sides. Council, questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Burrow? Mr. Grooms?
I hesitate to ask. Did we look into the possibility of acquiring private right-of-way rather than using MoDOT right-of-way?
We did not, and I'm not sure I see an advantage in,
They can't come tear our signs down, throw them in the ditch just because they don't like them.
That is true. That is true. I mean, there may be, we sit low on the state totem pole when it comes out, that kind of thing, but we need the signs out where voters can see them.
Well, that's obviously the next question, would there even be private land that would make the signs visible?
There could be. I mean, we'd be behind the fence line out there. I honestly don't know how we would fall under the permitting side. I think there's, we don't have it here from planning, there may be exemptions for government-installed signs on private property, I really don't know. The state regulates those as well. You might have the potential for expense, so we may have the same installation cost and maintenance cost, but easement acquisition cost on top of that. There may be some indignities that the state will inflict on us over time maybe, but certainly not something that we can't live with, I don't believe.
How wide is the state right of way? I mean, are we forced back into the very edges of it, or are we?
Well, we'd have to be on private property, I mean, that'd be.
No, I mean, if we stay on the state right of way, are you forced back into?
Oh, no,
like
no,
the 2-foot
we're out there
border,
with all the
edge, or
other
you right
traffic
out there on
control
the side?
signs, just a few feet off the pavement.
Okay.
So basically, Mr. Grimm, you're saying cost of replacing the signs versus cost of planting the right of way.
Which, I mean, these are newly constructed roads, I understand there's very little chance of future widening in the foreseeable future.
No, and I really think we'd have the opportunity
Nothing's
to
outside the road.
salvage as much as we could. I mean, these are breakaway bases, so at worst, we would be out our concrete, footing and metal base.
And just a reinstallation.
Yep.
Additional questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Brock? Council, Mr. Brock, go ahead, Mr. Clinkenbeer, go ahead.
My only comment was that like last time, if we're gonna do it, I think we should put the directional signs both directions. That's just, me addressing council there, but when you advertise that you're having a get-together or a birthday party or a, gathering at the park or whatever, people are gonna be looking for that coming from either direction. They don't necessarily have to be coming from Republic to go to our park system. So I think for as little money as that is, I think if we're gonna do it, we should do both.
That was my next comment to council, Mr. Clinkenbeer, thank you for a nice lead in there. Mr. Brock is asking basically, do you wanna do one or two? So, we.
Say two.
Okay.
We need to motion that, or?
If you would, that'd be great, just to make that amendment, to make it in the record.
Okay, I'll make a motion to, adopt the version of the ordinance, for two signs.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of that particular, amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Additional questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Brock? Seeing none, as a roll call vote. Thank you, Mr. Brock.
Councilmember Cool,
Aye.
Councilmember Consecrans,
Aye.
Councilman Harder,
Aye.
Councilman Brashears,
Aye.
Councilman Grimm,
Aye.
Councilman Wilson,
Aye.
Councilman Clinton.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Call the next item. Need a motion to have the second reading of bill number 13-12.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending Chapter 245, Republic City Code, Food and Food Establishments, Section 245.020, permit required, suspension or revocation.
I need a motion to have final passage of bill number 13-12.
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Christie, please give us an overview, sir.
Okay, actually, the next two items, this one and the one following it, are both related, and you'll see just, don't think we doubled up, the same exhibit, applies to both, since they are two related, ordinances. The first one, which is this particular bill, would be to establish the permit fees. This would be, consistent with what is established each and every year by the city of Springfield. The fees that are charged would be no different whether you're a restaurant in Springfield or whether you're a restaurant in the City of Republic. For this year and this year only, in 2013, since we are already into March, they would be prorating for the remainder part of this year, those particular fees. So if you're a restaurant doing business, you would be paying those particular fees prorated for 2013. Other restaurants, if it's of interest, within the county, so if you're in Willard or Stratford or in the unincorporated areas, those restaurants would be subject to a slightly higher fee, and that's only due to the amount of time it would take to travel to those other locations and the extra time it would take for them to be in that area. So, we do have the same schedule as Springfield. The options, if the city currently contracts or works with Springfield Greene County Health Department, they provide all of the inspection services for all of Greene County. They are really the designated person for this area or entity in this area that does the inspections. If they did not do the inspections, we would be forced to do one of two other things: establish our own health department, hire our own inspectors, and do the inspections ourselves. We would have costs associated with that and would no doubt have to look for some way to recoup those. And then the second would be to try to convince the state to do the inspections. They have a state health department, but that isn't a viable option. They, like the Greene County Springfield Health Department, are experiencing difficulties and their revenue sources are drying up as well. So our best and probably only option would be to continue working with the Springfield Greene County Health Department. They've come forward and asked for us to consider this. We waited until Greene County acted upon it first. They did approve it for the rest of Greene County, but because we're a chartered city, we need to do it as a chartered city. We need to enact our own ordinance for both the permit fee, and then next would be the intergovernmental agreement with the Springfield Greene County Health Department. And Roxanne is here. If you have any questions, comments about anything, I think you remember Roxanne from last time, she could have it down to the penny if you wanted, so.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Christie. Questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Clickenbeer, go ahead, sir.
I have one of the two of you probably don't know real quick. How many restaurants are in Republic?
There's 59 facilities that we inspect, only 45 will get built.
Yeah, so if we just round it to 50, even if you charged, $500 each as a city to do this, we wouldn't be able to hire somebody and create our own department to do this. This is a far better deal. So if the restaurants come to us, there is a worst case scenario. If we try to do this on our own, this is actually as good as it's gonna get.
For cheap labor.
Well, it's the bulk thing. We're working with the large number and are able to do that intergovernmental agreement. It seems, you hate to have to do it, but it's the smart choice.
Thank you, Ms. Clickenbeer. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Anything at all?
I want to thank everyone for all the questions you did ask me last time. They were very good questions, especially because it's the first time for this area, and I'd rather people be on board and upfront with me so that they understand what's going on. And then last time I was here too, Jim really kind of said the whole scenario perfectly before I got up here, so I didn't have to do hardly anything but answer questions. So thanks, Jim, for that. So, I mean, really, if you have any questions, and I tell people, no question is a stupid question, because this is all new to you. And when we started with Springfield 5 years ago, they've been paying fees for 5 years. So I had to deal with that first, too. So, and they've accepted it. And everything every year goes through finance. And so it doesn't go up every year, sometimes it goes down. So just because your gas goes up or food goes up doesn't mean your fees are gonna go up.
You would probably not have an issue with this group being forwarded up front.
Well, I mean, I don't know you, so I just wanted to make sure that you guys
That's good.
understand
No,
that
you won't have an issue with it.
I'm okay.
Additional questions, comments, discussion from Roxanne or Mr. Christie, either one.
We do thank you for coming too. Makes our job much easier.
I'm curious, what the other counties are doing. Is Greene County the leader in this? For the other counties, for the other, cities like Willard, Stratford,
Yes.
Republic, and so forth? Sorry,
Battlefield.
and Republic. We had a few backlash a little bit, but, it's only because they have a lot of competition in that little area. So like when Willard had a grocery store, they also have a Walmart, so they have a lot of competition in that area. Springfield has a lot of competition too, so they know that when they have to have good inspections, that they have to have good inspections because there's just way too much competition out there for food services.
Because
And it does go in the paper, and so that they know they do even better because they,
I understand Christian County is not as strict as Greene County. Is that true?
restricted as far as what?
Any kind of food inspection?
They're under the same food code we are.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Missouri food code,
Who inspects Christian County? Forgive my ignorance.
Christian County.
Christian County
Yeah,
has their own?
they have their own health department.
Okay, that's interesting.
In Barton County, Polk County, some counties kinda commingle with other ones when they're very, very little counties. They'll have one person from one county and they do 3 counties. Like Webster County, that's a small one. I don't know counties very well, I'm kinda ignorant in Missouri, I'm a Chicago woman. So, I think that's a suburb. Anyway, so I don't know all the little towns in Missouri, sorry.
Are you a south side or north side of this
I'm a west sider.
You should have stopped.
You've now touched the nerve, Roxanne, and the rest of the night's gone, so.
Roxanne, it is important that you answer this correctly. Cubs,
Or White
Cardinals.
Sox? No, Cubs are
Oh,
White
no.
Sox.
The Bears.
The
I'm a football
Bears.
fan. Sorry, baseball people.
Baseball doesn't exist in west side Chicago.
Sorry.
It's okay.
No, that's kinda like the,
He's a Cubs fan, and he's already crying the blues for September, and it's not even April yet. But anyway, that's besides the point.
All right, go football.
Any additional pertinent questions, comments, discussion for Roxanne or
That's
Mr.
the hard part to get.
Pertinent is obviously the key word there, Mr. Gribbs. Alright. Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Clinkenbeard,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson,
Aye.
Councilmember Graham,
Aye.
Councilmember Bashir,
Aye.
Councilmember Harder,
Aye.
Councilmember Casper,
Aye.
Councilmember Cool.
Aye. With reservation.
We're safer and healthier for this.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, we could say asterisks on that.
On the next item, need a motion to have the second reading of bill number 13-13.
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Okay, now I got the wrong one.
13. We're good.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into an intergovernmental cooperative agreement with the City of Springfield for health inspection services.
Thank you. Need a motion to have final passage of bill number 13-13.
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Krischke, would you like to give us an overview or add any more?
Really, probably not much more to add, except for this is the second part of this, which would be the intergovernmental agreement, that sets all this, makes all illegal, makes all unhappy, so that, we're covered and we can allow them to do their business, and hopefully everybody will be happy.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Krischke on the intergovernmental agreement. Mr. Grooms?
This is, really, that's all this is a question. If we've already said, yeah, we're good with you guys coming in doing the inspections, we've got an intergovernmental agreement, why do we have to adopt a fee schedule? Why can't they set their own? I mean, obviously they've said it, why do we have to adopt it?
Because we are the legislative, you are the legislative body that sets fees for the city.
So every
We
time you're
can't-
changing
that
the
would
fee
be a
schedule, Green County's gonna come back here.
Do what now?
Every time there's a change in the fee schedule, Green County's gonna come
Well,
back.
no, the way it's structured in the intergovernmental agreement and the ordinance is that council has authorized them to file a certified copy when and if they change the fee schedule with the clerk. Once that certified copy is filed, that becomes our fee schedule. However, you've reserved the legislative right to make any amendments or changes to that fee schedule
At any time.
at any time.
But in order to do so, you have to have an intergovernmental agreement stating that these two match up, that you've done this, your legislative body's done X, their legislative body's done Y, and the two have to match up, so otherwise, you have to have that
I was
intergovernmental.
just trying to get it clear in my head, once we basically said you're clear to do business here, why we're going to have to approve the price structure.
Well,
so to
you're
speak.
actually approving a governmental agreement between the two that includes the price Additional questions, comments, discussion? That's a good question, Mr. Groves. Anything at all? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Poole?
Aye.
Councilmember Cassegrain?
Aye.
Councilmember Harder?
Aye.
Councilmember Bashir?
Aye.
Councilmember Grooms?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Kissinger?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, Roxanne. On the next item, need a motion to have the second reading of bill number 13-14.
Motion?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to execute an STP program agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the preparation of a transportation master plan.
Need a motion to have final approval, bill number 13-14.
Motion?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Welcome, Mr. Brock. Please give us an overview, sir.
Thank you. This is really the first step towards the completion of a transportation master plan. This agreement sets forth the terms to use federal highway dollars, Surface Transportation Program dollars, towards that purpose. There is always a 20% local requirement, so our initial preliminary budget would be $64,000 in federal highway funds, matched by $18,000 in local transportation funds, which is in our budget for this year, by the way. As I mentioned, this is step number 1. Really, we're only at a very broad brush point as the components of a transportation master plan. Essentially, we're looking for 3 components: a traffic impact study, the levels of traffic to be expected on our surface streets in the future. Take that and translate that to some capital improvement programming. Where do we need improvements and how much is that going to cost? And also open the door to some bike and pedestrian planning. We've done some trails, some sidewalk projects, but we've really never looked at the city as a whole and tried to determine where do people want to go as cyclists or pedestrians, where are the draws, so to speak, and how do we link those together. The completion time, we're probably looking at a 12 to 18-month period. This would come back to the city council a number of times. There would be a formal selection process for the engineers. There would be a contract with a very specific scope of work attached to that, also come back to the city council, and certainly as part of the public information gathering, be involved with that as well. So to get the door open, take our first baby step, would be a passage and adoption of this bill, allowing agreement with the Highway Commission on use of the transportation funds.
Thank you. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock?
Just for my own knowledge, not to, just, does this take any other modes of transportation into account? Besides walking and biking and...
It certainly can. As hope I tried to relate here, we really have complete discretion in what that might be. The other modes of travel, mass transit, possibly, I don't know what your interest might be.
Well, we talked about, my interest are the, trails and pedestrian traffic and that kind of stuff, but I'm just, as I'm sitting here thinking about this, I'm wondering what other kind of results might come of this study that we might not have thought of.
Certainly that's something that we can shape. The process that I envision is we will develop in our solicitation when we're asking for proposals from engineering firms. Here are the scope of work that we're looking for. I expect that we will get responses from very well qualified firms who have done a number of these. They may provide us with ideas that we've not had yet. So part of the selection process will be to find a firm that we should expect to have more experience in these matters than we do. We wouldn't want to hire anybody that's not that savvy. So certainly be happy to work with, council members or the council as we develop the scope of work.
Just curious, thank you.
To your point, Mr. Cascarino, OTO actually has a committee that looks at bike trails and pedestrian trails, and Jim's gonna be digging into that as part of your question. We can kinda discuss, he's gonna be digging into that, see what they have to offer, because that, as we grow in our park system here, as we add parks, we've already had one on the east side, there's probably gonna be a greater need just in our walk track there.
Sure.
At Miller Park. So your point is well taken, and Mr. Christie's gonna dig into that OTO piece of it, and if there's a portion that might, if there's a committee or something, would you be willing to serve on something like that if we can get, if that's available?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I've talked to Mr. Keeling and Mr. Brock, about that very issue, because I think of, the Greenway Park Trail system that's in Springfield, and it's very heavily used, and I think makes it a great community to live in, so.
This would be outside of the City Republic, this would be something.
Right.
Let Jim dig out, see what we can find out, I'll get back with you, but your point's well taken to Mr. Brown.
I thought you were looking for a monorail down 60 or something.
I'm thinking subway.
Subway.
I'm an out-of-the-box thinker.
We've already got
weird.
Might involve some plastic.
I'm not touching that.
Caves are in one open Any other pertinent questions in this discussion? Mr. Grooms, please ask a good one.
No, I'm done, thank you.
Okay.
Marty's points were good, though.
They were.
Added some levity to it.
Anything else? Additional comments, questions for Mr. Brown? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Tindall?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Bassoon?
Aye.
Councilmember Bashir?
Aye.
Councilmember Harder?
Aye.
Councilmember Casagrande? Councilmember Ford?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0, thank you. On to new items. The motion to have the first reading of bill number 13-15.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending Chapter 215, Republic City Code, offenses, Articles, 4, offenses concerning public peace, Section 215.300, weapons carrying concealed, other unlawful use by amending paragraph H, subparagraph 3 to extend the sunset date for hunting in certain agricultural areas of the city.
Mr. Derrickson, give us the overview, sir.
Well, if some of you who were on council a few years ago will recall, when the consolidation occurred, there was a consolidation agreement, and one of the terms of that consolidation agreement was to allow hunting in certain areas in the former Brookline area. And council at that time adopted an amendment to this particular code section, paragraph H of that code section. It's much longer than just what you have before, but the pertinent part is paragraph H, and at that time decided to allow the hunting or the exception for hunting through the year December 31st of 2011. Well, we let that lapse and didn't realize it had happened, and so we're coming back with housekeeping to see if council wants to, pursuant to that agreement, go ahead and extend this through the year 2016. I've talked to Mark. We've had absolutely no calls for anything out there related to this, and so just that's background information for it. We've not had any problems if council wants to go ahead and extend that to 2016. That's the only change being made, is the extension.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Derrickson. Mr. Harder?
The boundaries in the packet that you give us, is all the red boundaries, is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yep.
My concern would be the McLean area with the trucks running through there.
If the zoning has changed, this is limited to agricultural zoning, I believe.
It is
Yeah,
agricultural.
Huh?
It is agricultural though, across from McLean, isn't it?
Across from, yeah, there's agriculture
Yeah.
all around McLean, and, we've got a PDD that was rezoned, whether that development comes through or not. So although you have a boundary that is described much more large than, is described in a much more large manner than what you would actually be allowed to hunt on, because the zoning has changed for a large part of that property out there.
Additional questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Quakenbury?
I guess we could turn this around. If we haven't had any calls on this about this particular issue, then is there not anybody that's really wanting to hunt on their property out here? I mean, why would we want to extend that if no one's utilizing it? It's not a
Because
common...
it's part of a consolidation agreement with the
Okay.
town, village of Brookline.
We're still obligated to that.
Whoever drafted it did not put a termination clause in there. So it's a gray area as to how long we're bound by that. But we are in litigation over the consolidation that's just kind of sitting there, but I would hate to do anything that would throw a potential wrench in that.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson? When you cross your arms, I get nervous.
I got one for the chief. Come on down. When you say you haven't had any calls out there,
Any complaints?
right, that's what you're meaning, that you haven't had any complaints of people
No.
shooting recklessly, so, and it's not the other way around.
No, I'm running under the supposition, because I don't honestly know, that the people who own the property that's zoned agricultural that had desired this to be in there may still be using it to go out and shoot at doves or whatever else they're doing, but we have not received any citizen complaints about their activity on their property.
They may not even know that it's expired.
That's probably the case. Probably right.
Yeah.
Correct.
We didn't know, so
Sure.
they didn't know.
Mr. Wilson, that's the way my thought was as well, is that there weren't any issues based on this expiring.
Right.
Okay,
I'm good.
all right.
I just wanted to be clear.
Chief, I had a question, if I can take a turn. As you know, I'm a gun owner and a avid shooter, but I do wonder if you could comment on calibers or types of firearms within this area. It's gonna be different with the...
Well, this excludes rifles.
Oh, okay.
So the people that would be hunting either turkey, dove, or if they wanted to shoot a deer, they would be limited to using a shotgun.
Okay.
Or possibly a handgun. I'm pretty sure you
But
can't shoot a dove or a turkey with a handgun if there's some law about that.
I got enough where I can do it.
There's a law that says you're not supposed to.
If you, if council will look at, section H, number 2, this exception shall not apply to the discharge of handguns and shotguns with the area described above. So it is limited right there
Excellent.
in the, ordinance itself, so.
Excellent, thank you.
It's also superseded by then state law or whatever the regulations are for hunting, correct?
Well, I use the term hunting. What this addresses is, we have an ordinance that says it is illegal to discharge a firearm in the city limits.
Gotcha.
This provides an exception for discharging a handgun or a shotgun in that area. We're assuming they're probably gonna be doing that for hunting.
But it could be target practice
It
or...
could be target practice or, some other reason.
Gotcha.
These are all good questions. Additional questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Derrickson? Anything at all? This is a first read. If you have questions, comments, discussion between now and the next meeting, ask at the next meeting, or contact Mr. Derrickson, with your, legal questions regarding this particular issue. Thank you. Well, then, other business? Resolution number 13-R-11, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to enter into an agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for the use of state road funds. Need a motion?
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Chief Lowe, please give us an overview, sir.
thankfully, the, Missouri MoDOT basically has various grants they award for highway safety. And we've applied for this one in the past, and we've been able to acquire some equipment from it. We've got a grant coming up right behind this one that's similar to it, but a different area of their grant. And what we're hoping to purchase is a LiDAR gun, which is a handheld laser version of a radar gun. So it's a directed beam. That way we can use it to specify which vehicle we're targeting rather than a radar, which is a broader beam. And we can also use it for other sources, such as traffic measurements and other things that go with the higher technology that comes with that. And as you can see from the cost, they're relatively expensive, and so the one we do have in our inventory is something we purchased through the same exact grant a few years ago.
Thanks, Chief. Questions, comments, discussion for Chief Lowe? Anything at all? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. On the next item, resolution number 13-R-12, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the Police Department to apply for 2 reimbursable grants through the 2013-2014 Missouri State Missouri Highway Safety Program for traffic safety grants. I'd like to have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion second. Chief Lowe, give us the overview on this one, please.
And we've been very fortunate in recent years applying under this one. There's $10,000 we're requesting for overtime costs that'll be used for traffic safety. That's the aggressive driving, the speeding, or if they're doing any of the buckle up campaigns or anything along those lines, they're just basic traffic safety. And then we're asking for $12,000 for overtime costs to basically do the DUI checkpoints and other DUI enforcement and patrols for that. So we're hoping for a total of $22,000, although as money's being tight, I doubt we'll be that fortunate. And as soon as I get the date on the next DUI roadblock, I will be forwarding that to Mr. Kriske so that you can all be made aware of it.
I highly suggest that you make one of those. I really do. It's late at night, but boy, they entertain you. It's quite the interesting deal. Last time I was there, and I'm gonna tell the story on the Chief because he brought it up. We're standing at the front of the line, and one of these suspects.
I don't recall bringing that up.
I just brought it up for you. One of the suspects takes off down Highway 60 at 11:30 at night. Suspect's Ron, wasn't convicted, suspect. Takes off running down Highway 60. Chief decides he's gonna take off after him. About 100 yards down, he's pulling up with that hamstring. He walks back holding it. I said, Chief, don't let the young guys do it. Let the young guys. I just stood there and watched him pull that muscle.
And they caught him.
They caught him.
Of course, one of those things is he's running past and he's throwing out bindles of heroin, a knife. I believe he had some meth and a little marijuana. I'm not exactly sure because it was kind of flying as he was. And
Supermarket.
a man's got to understand his limitations. I now have a firmer grasp of mine.
Chief's limitations was 100 yards down, but it's always entertaining. These DUI checkpoints do net quite a few people that have issues and things like that out on the road, and those are always good to get those individuals off the road. And it is my hope that we have the grant for that again. Those are excellent ways to keep people off the streets that shouldn't be driving anyway. So, questions, comments, discussion for Chief Lowe regarding this particular item? Mr. Harder?
How many sobriety checkpoints will that $12,000 do? Is that just the one, or?
We can do several for that, but we'll also do DUI patrols.
Okay.
By paying officers to go out and do periods of time, 4 hours here, 4 hours there. Some of our targeted nights where we won't do a DUI checkpoint, say like New Year's Eve, but we might have additional patrols out that they're paying for through that grant to have those extra officers on the street.
Thank you.
Or if there might be a World Series game in Missouri for some reason.
Which there often is.
I've heard that, yes.
It's always won by the Bears.
Pertinent, any other additional questions or other questions for Chief Lowe? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. On to the next item, resolution number 13-R-13, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding bids for the supply of bulk materials for the 2013 fiscal year. Like to have a motion on that?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion second. Welcome, Mr. Brock. Please give us an overview, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Each year, we do a sealed bid process for our construction materials. This locks in the price for these products over the course of the year, ensures compliance with our purchasing policy regardless of how big our projects may be during any one year. We had very good response this year. All of the local quarries, all of the local asphalt plants, all the local concrete companies submitted bids for us. In most cases, or for the quarry products and for the ready-mix concrete, the unit price includes delivery to any location in Republic. So, in general, we see those quarries and those concrete plants with the closest locations able to provide the lowest cost. In other words, their cost to manufacture a product is being equal. They're paying trucking fees to get to Republic, and this year was no different. You'll see on the results there are the recommendations. Cleverstone, the quarry just down in Christian County, was able to provide the best pricing for the bulk of the quarry products. The one exception there being sand, which they don't manufacture. Our low bidder there was Springfield Underground. Probably one of the longest travel times. However, they had the sharpest pencil for that particular item. Our bidders for asphalt, and that is pick up at the plant, our low bidder was Blevin Asphalt. You may have noticed they recently built a production plant just up at the intersection James River and Sunshine. On the concrete products, structural concrete and flowable fill, our low bidder is K Concrete. So, Resolution 13-R-13 is recommending award to all of our apparent low bidders in each case, and pricing and vendors are displayed in the resolution.
Questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Brock? Mr. Harder?
Do you have any idea if it's an increase from last year and what percentage?
It is. All of Cleverstone's bids went up by a nickel. Price for sand actually went down. Price for asphalt is the same. Both of the concrete products went up $5 per cubic yard. So percentage-wise, there wasn't a real trend that we could identify.
Thank you.
Good question. Additional questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Brock?
We're hoping that the asphalt, that our asphalt price is staying the same, means that when the county opens their bid for the hot mix asphalt, that they'll see something similar, and we'll get to share in that as well.
Additional questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Brock? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Resolution number 13-R-14, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the disposal of surplus tractors and mowing equipment. Motion?
Motion.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Mr. Brown, give us the overview on this one, sir.
This follows budget implementation strategies. Council may remember late last year, we went ahead and authorized the purchase of a 2006 John Deere and boom mower. That piece of equipment has arrived. The piece of equipment it was replacing was a 1996 Massey Ferguson with a boom mower, and so we had proposed in our budget that when we had that replacement equipment, we would dispose of or offer up to sale essentially three pieces of equipment: a 79 tractor that was really rendered surplus several years ago but never disposed of, a 96 Massey Ferguson, and the boom mower that was on that piece of equipment. These are really closest to farm implements, and in that industry, there are two big auctions each year, one by a company by the name of Glenworth, and another one by a company, Diamond S Company. We asked both of those firms to give us a proposal on their auctioneer's fees. Diamond S had a graduated scale based on the price of the sale, cheaper as it went up. Glenworth auctioned 10% across the board. We feel that with the price to expect for these pieces of equipment will be in the 6% range with Diamond S, and so we're asking permission to put those up for auction. Their big farm implement event is at the end of this month.
Questions, comments, discussion, Mr. Brock? Mr. Casper?
Is it, just too much of a pain just to throw an ad in the paper and list their own price, or is it just easier
Our purchasing policy lists off acceptable ways to dispose of equipment. Auction sales are specifically listed. It's a competitive process. Certainly it would be acceptable to put a price in the paper, but we really feel this is the best way, or at least optimize the sale price that we might get.
Additional questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Brock?
Do you have a price that you want, a firm price that you have to have before you sell it?
If you look on the front of the exhibit there, you'll see the low end of that scale would be our bottom dollar. Our street superintendent is going to attend. He can nix the sale if we get below those dollars. If it goes up for auction and we decline to sell, it's a $35 fee, but we're hopeful that they'll clear those minimums.
Questions, Booth? Bless you. Additional questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Brock? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. On the next item, resolution number 13-R-15, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, approving the purchase of an International Model 7300 dump truck for the Water Division of Public Works. I'd like to have a motion.
Motion. Second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Brock, give us the overview on this one, sir.
This is another budgeted purchase. The length of delivery time dictates that if we want it to happen in this budget year, we need to be ordering in early spring. We want to utilize a MoDOT bid for a single axle large dump truck. This is very, very similar to the truck that was purchased for the street department back in 2011. Some of the equipment has changed a little bit. No snowplow equipment on this one, a little different towing setup. But you see the full specifications there. Total pricing $90,069. Our budget document calls for this to be a financed purchase. Coordinating with Laura, she needs to have an approximate delivery date before she wants to initiate that financing procedure. So we're asking for approval to go ahead and put our work order in, or our purchase order in for a truck off of the state bid. That dealer is International Engine Corp. Out of Fenton, Missouri.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock?
This is how they come equipped.
They have a number of options. And you see through there where you see a dollar amount, that is an option that either was an add or a deduct. It's not a very simple process to go through this. The same with the truck bed. That vendor is Viking Sides. And, essentially, we went through and took the deducts that we did not need and any additives that we felt would make it a more robust, working vehicle, for this specific purpose, working out of the water department, were added on.
Go ahead, sir. Shoot.
On the cigar lighter, would that, no, would that be for the, like recharge your electronic?
Right, it's a power receptacle as well.
They just don't call it cigar lighters, Mr.
That's what it's called.
I know, but I'm just saying.
We have an ordinance, do we not, where the employees cannot smoke in their vehicles?
Yes.
That's correct.
So we can get rid of the ash cup.
Get rid of the ash cup, for sure.
That's a change cup, unless you
Yeah,
know.
That's all it says.
But yeah, that's a good point, Mr. Wilson.
I wanted to be sure what it was.
Good point.
That's for the radar detector.
Any more pertinent questions, comments, discussions from Mr. Brown?
Tend to use that word a lot
Every meeting.
It's gotta be one of those new laser ones apparently now too.
Radar. Anyway, anything else? Anything else? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Resolution number 13-R-16, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding the bid for the supply and delivery of 2 new baseball, softball scoreboards for the Parks and Recreation Department. I'd like to have a motion on that resolution.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Welcome, Mr. Keeling. Thanks for being patient tonight. Please give us an overview, sir.
Thank you. We have 7 baseball, softball fields that we play throughout the summer season. 5 of those have scoreboards. 3 of those have the newer type LED scoreboards. 2 of them have the older bulb type incandescent scoreboards. The 2 new LED boards will replace the 2 older types we've had. We had some outages last year. As you know, get outages on a scoreboard in the middle of a youth game. Things go awry in a hurry. Those are like alien type UFO outages, like nobody could explain them, but one of our biggest issues we're fighting with these scoreboards is we've been able to part and piece together the consoles from past years, but we're down to no more parts and pieces. Plus the boards themselves are getting to be in issues with the outages. So we took bids. We budgeted $10,000 for the suspension in 2013. Very happy with the bids we received. The bids we received for ASCO, it was for a 4x9 board for $6,407. Another board from ASCO, a 6x9 board for $7,599. Daktronics, $6,824. Nevco, $10,981.68. Tomark, $8,480, and Varsity Scoreboard, $7,574.11. I did put an asterisk on the one by ASCO. 2 issues with that board. First of all, the size. We do prefer a larger board. And secondly, that board's not able to display inning and clock at the same time. It's something we do require for our youth games. They are either on an innings maximum or a time maximum. We have to have both those up there. So we are recommending we go with the Daktronics board. All of our 3 boards have baseball, softball, as well as the 3 in the community center, all Daktronics boards. We've had very good luck with them, and their service has been excellent as well. So they do come with a 5-year parts warranty. Like I said, been happy with the boards. So the only thing we don't know for sure what we're going to do yet is with the old scoreboards. Possibly some ideas of some value there, either resale value or salvage value. We'll make a determination of what we're going to do with those. So.
Thank you. Questions, comments, discussion from Mr. Keeling. Mr. Casagran, please.
Can you use the console then for this new board?
We're actually getting those as part. These are wireless, which we're really happy with too. We're getting wireless consoles too. They're the modern as everything else is just trending, but they're even making those now where umpires can operate them handhelds. We're not going with that just because we think they're really get lost a lot, but technology is advancing obviously. So. Puts a lot on your umpire though to umpire the game and keep score. So.
Good question. Mr. Harder?
Are you looking at sponsorship to defray the cost of that, or?
Well, the three we had up were sponsored by Coke. Now, I do want to say, though, that we made a really good decision a couple of years ago in getting away with doing that. And as part of that, what we did is we asked our exclusive beverage provider to just give us our lowest possible price on their cases. What they had to do a lot of times is hedge their prices on basically giving us those scoreboards. Essentially, what we were doing was overpaying for product. They were, obviously, they knew that ahead of time, but they had to make up the $6,000 for scoreboards, so they were boosting up those case prices pretty much. So really happy with the way we went here. With kind of another thing that we haven't done in our park system is we haven't went with the advertising route. You could probably make two arguments on there. You go to some park systems and it's nothing but one big advertising board. Ours is indoor and out. We haven't done that yet. We are looking at it. I'm not prepared to say if we're going to do it or not, but sometimes when you go into community centers, they turn into a massive advertising space, and I'm just not for sure that's where we want to go.
Very good, thank you.
Additional questions, comment, discussion? Mr. Keating, I have one question. On the Daktronics bid, it says FOB, freight on board. Daktronics, there's no freight delivery charge as the other ones have. An FOB price, I guess they shot us an FOB price, we have to pick that up? Is that
No, it's supply and delivery.
supply on delivery? Because their FOB says Daktronics, which means that it's
No,
freight on board.
They have a local rep though, and he's bringing them to us, so.
That's what I wanted to know.
One thing I did not say, and I do apologize, we are gonna have, as part of the $10,000, we are gonna have to pay a local sign company, probably in the neighborhood of $800 to $1,200 to help assist us with the installation. That's not part of this bid, we'll bid that out separately, but, we will have that expense as well, but still well under the $10,000.
All right. Yep, thank you. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. On the next item, thank you, Mr. Keeling. Resolution number 13-R-17, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic of Missouri authorizing payment to the Missouri Rural Services Workers' Compensation Insurance Trust for coverage for 2013-2014. Would like to have a motion on that resolution.
Motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Krischke, since Laura is not here, looks like it's falling to you, sir.
It is falling to me. We have, of course, we have workers' compensation insurance. It does not run with our calendar year like a general liability and health insurance would. It runs fiscal year April 1st through March 31st. We have had as our workers' compensation insurance company Missouri Rural. People who have been on the council for a while are familiar with this name, but for a number of years rather, the market was very competitive. The rates had trended lower, and now it's seen a reversal. Not so much for our past experience, but just in general, the workers' compensation market has been hit hard with claims, and even though we have had very good experience ourselves, we're still being hit with those increases in premiums. This year, we did not honestly expect to see almost a 14% increase from 2012 premiums, but we did. So our total premium, after you get done with all of the discounts and the premium or dividend refunds, is $137,712, $137,712. So it is about a 14% increase. We have contacted Missouri Rural. They will be sending their representatives down to visit with us, not this week, but next week. We're going to be going over a number of things that contribute to the higher increases. One would be closing out of some of the old claims, not just that we have in the city, but throughout the company, just to see what kind of an impact that would have on our rates. Classification of our employees within different categories. We want to review to see if any employees are misclassified, and that may bring down or lower our rates. And then just want to review all of the different actual rate factors that are in place. So we are going to be looking at different ways that we can possibly reduce this, but as of right now, our renewal premium is $137,712.
Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Krischke on the $137,712.
Thank you.
Is the 127.29 part of the 2013 budget?
The 137,
No, the 127.29, is that what was budgeted for this year?
that was last year's. We had an increase at about 10% for this year, so we're just slightly above where we
We got
were.
about 132 budgeted.
Yes, yeah, so we're slightly above. And one thing I do want to add that is really important, and one of the things that, we are going to check with Missouri Rural, they have, they pay out dividends every year based on the performance of the trust. And those dividends actually sit in a reserve account, and little by little, those dividends are paid back to the city. We have in total, $94,000 in dividends that are sitting in a reserve account. And those will only get released to the city once all of the claims system-wide are closed for any particular year that you have dividends. So that has become a deciding factor on whether or not we go and seek outside bids from another company, or we stay with Missouri Rural. So that is one of the items that we will be talking about, is how can we reclaim our $94,000 in dividends that are sitting there in reserve on our behalf. If they're never going to be released and we're never going to see them, then that may push us over to where we want to go out and bid this out next year. If there is an opportunity to get that back, we want to work hard to get as much of that back as possible.
Mr. Castor, any other questions, sir?
Actually, I had a comment. This is an industry that I've got quite a bit of experience in. Our mod rate is 9.91, which is, of course, very good. It means we're a good insurance risk, and I mentioned this before, I'll mention it again. Self-insurance becomes a definite option at some point. If they're hanging under $90,000 of our money, we want to get that back first, of course, but that's some self-insurance is an option that we probably want to take a look at.
And Laura's and Jim has looked, they're starting to dig into that, just because of, just as you mentioned, the modification factor is, is .91, has been .94. But, at this particular time, until we get that 94,000 resolved, then we kind of figure out what we do, but you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Good point. Other questions, comments, discussion? Anything at all? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. We do have an executive session tonight, however, I would like to make mention that after executive session, there is no further action on open session. Other than that, the announcement, by myself for adjournment, that will take place after executive session, but as far as open session business is closed. Need a motion to go into executive session under RSMO 610.021.1.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call vote.
Councilmember Full,
Aye.
Councilmember Cassegrain,
Aye.
Councilmember Harder,
Aye.
Councilmember Bashir,
Aye.
Councilmember Gruen,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson,
Aye.
Councilmember Clifton.
Motion carries, take a 5-minute recess.